Welcome to Pinball Mayhem. Time for an update on Ringer. I've been working on the board down here, and as you can see, well, it's really hard to tell. What I ended up doing is I take 600 grit sandpaper, fold it in half, little strips of it, and I ran it just through all the contacts, just lightly. Just want to clean any debris or corrosion. And remember, I cut the cable off. Fully removed it. So I want to replace the cable. I've gone through and last video we looked at the middle shelf area. All those contacts have been serviced and everything is good there. Down here I just ran everything through once, and one thing I check for is how the contacts are operating. So if they're away, do they touch? Does the blade move as necessary? It has to move a little bit even when it relaxes. If each blade doesn't move, it's just touching, it's not going to work for long periods of time. You have to have a little bit of movement, which is called washing the blades. So I went through and I checked these all. It didn't take long, maybe like took an hour just to go through this many contacts and just quickly run some fine grit sandpaper or emery board, whatever you want. I went through the top side, I'll show you that. But the thing is, and this is just a standard 15-foot extension cord, two-prong I'm going to use. The thing is with the top side, I did not get around to the steppers yet. So we're going to see how well this thing works without the steppers serviced. But I did go through and adjust all the score, the score wheels, the switches on those. I cleaned the score wheel and the credit wheel, center that out. So first thing you do, without this plugged in, I'm going to cut the end off. Okay, so we want to attach this to these two wires. Before I said they looked like they were wire nutted. They're wire nutted and soldered. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the plug-in. Now originally this was not keyed, but it's keyed now, no big deal. I'm going to leave it that way. So the smaller of the two, if your outlet's wired properly, is hot, and the wider of the two is your neutral. So the smaller of the two, if you look on the wire, the same side of that wire is smooth and this side is ribbed. So I'm down here on the other side. Smaller of the two is the smooth one, and the wide is ribbed. So AC doesn't matter. It's AC, each side is required. There's no plus or minus. But the one thing that does matter is I want the hot to always go through the fuse. It goes through the fuse and goes up through the switch and down. So if this fuse blows, I got this orange wire, which is the hot, goes into here. I did check the schematic to verify it. The purple wire goes to the one side of the transformer. So all the switches in it, the safety in the game. So I want, if this fuse blows, the only hot wire after this extension cord is going to be this orange wire to that side of the fuse. Safety, safety, safety. And do I have the chunk of, see the chunk of the original wire? I am using a little bit bigger gauge, no biggie. Going to hold up a little bit better. So I'm kind of looking at a little over a ½ inch stripped. There we go. So smooth is going to go to the orange, and I am going to solder it after I twist this together, and then I'm going to wire nut it and make sure nothing shows, because that's what they originally did, and I want to be safe. Even if it wasn't originally soldered, I would still solder it, because I don't want this separating. Why have weak voltage just because the first thing you do, the first place that the voltage hits is not soldered. This is kind of like a car. You want to avoid wire nuts where possible. So what I'm doing is I'm heating. The only reason I put a little solder on the iron itself is to help transmit the heat, but I'm actually heating the metal or the wire. And you can actually tell, you can watch it kind of go in. And with a bigger bundle of wires, sometimes you have to go to the other side. Now, if you can touch the solder to the wire where the iron isn't, like the other side right there, that means I got enough heat in it. There we go. So we are soldered. Next thing, wire nuts. Wire nuts do not quite cover that. So for safety, I'm going to just nip a little bit off. And it's like I have someone snooping around over there. I'm going to shorten it so I can use the original wire nuts. I got a good solder joint now, so technically speaking, move this out of there. If we're going to be going hot soon, I don't want this in it. Technically speaking, we have enough joint there, so shortening is not a big deal. Wire could have stretched from previous heating, such stuff like that. Of course, you know, you always assume everything in a pinball machine is hot anyways. All right, so this was looped back. It was gone through the clip and came out here. So I'm gonna loop it back and see if the original clip I have is gonna go through. Now I got a wider wire, so I'm kind of doubting this clip's gonna work. I may have to grab another one. Yeah, it's a little small. I'm actually gonna keep this. I might use this for the back here. Good thing I have various size of those wire clips. Always good to have those around. You go to the hardware store and you need to buy one or two, buy a baggie. And I kind of like to save them. So like this one's a little original white one. Hey look, this one's a little bigger, same style. Nobody's gonna know. The other one here that's the exit is kind of a clear one. And I found, and that's why sometimes you don't want to use those. Oh, new style it is. The clear ones have a tendency to shatter as well. So, uh-oh, lost my screw. Here we are. So pay attention. Always have a spare if you're planning on reusing it. I'm going to go back to the original location. And I don't find I would need to put electrical tape on these. Check the joints, make sure the caps don't fall out. But I mean, if you're working in here with it plugged in and on, you have to be conscious that you're working on a hot device. There we go. What's this? 10 cents coin to play. These are more adjustments. What is that? 25 cents adjustment 3. So I want this to come out looping around here. These capacitors I'm going to eventually replace. I just haven't had a chance to see if I have those around. So because I cut it off right at that location, this is already broke. This is shattered junk. Hey look, this one will fit. Throw that in. Actually, one thing I did wrong, there needs to be a knot here. So now I get to tie a knot with the bundle of cables rather than tying it before I attached it, which is always fun. Okay, you always want a knot, like the original wire had a knot in it, just a twist over knot. You always want a knot so that if someone yanks on that cord, it's going to have a little resistance before it tries to pull out of the cabinet. There we go. That's a good spot. And I'm going to put this in. I think that's going to hold well. Good, good, good. Like it. So I am this close to powering this on for the first time. Do I expect it to work? No. Do I hope to be close? Maybe. There. All right. Cool. All right, so this, I'm just going to throw this in the coin box for now. These are all junk. Don't need to kneel on that accidentally. Turn off my soldering iron. All right. Couple other things I did is I did take the plugs there on the left. I took those, unplugged them. They were really gnarly. A lot of corrosion. I've seen other pictures of this game, all white. Unplugged them. I ended up trying to use emery cloth, all sorts of stuff. I ended up using a small wire wheel on a Dremel at a low speed, and I just had to work all three sides of all pins. It probably took me about an hour, hour and a half to go through all of those, all the pins and all those plugs. When I plugged them back in, one of the connectors shattered, so I put a jumper wire here, but I made sure the wire is long enough and then I could tuck it away. So if I do unplug it, I can get to it. And let's see. I might go back later. I know Jeremy has shown adjusting, repairing these. Right now, I want to get it working, see if there's not any more pins I need to repair before I jump the gun and start drilling out rivets. This is an outlet switch. Very useful. You don't know the state of this machine. I don't know what it's sitting at right now. You know, this could be turned. I mean, we don't know what the home switch is. And biggest thing is that switch is way up there to turn it off, way at the top. I want to, when I plug this in, to have a hot switch, a switch on my hand. So even if I got a 3-prong and this won't work, my workbench has a on-off switch on it, so I can just shut it off. Always have multiple ways to shut something off if things don't go right. We don't need to lock on coils and burn them. I like this one because the switch lights up when it's on, and it has on-off clearly labeled, and it's just like, you know, $5 at the hardware store. But it's a good testing thing. It's kind of for a smoke test. So I'm going to plug this into my bench right here the right way. I'm going to flip it. All right, it's alive. Cool. Take some more stuff off the ground. We have a real power cable in there, and I'm gonna take this bad boy off, and now you get shaky cam. So that's a little close-up of the work we just did. Put the cable on. I copied the way it was originally, so if you want to criticize the way it was done, I'm trying to keep it close to original. Now the way this notch in the door and this is designed so I could fold this whole cable and throw it up into the game. Or I could pull it out, so you can move it without the cable tripping, but it also has a notch, and that knot will give something to pull against. Here's a close-up on the plugs. The sockets, I didn't really have a way to clean the outsides right now. I cleaned the pins, they work. So here is our ringer assembly, and this is the back of the start switch, and you notice the credit light's on because I got a credit on there. All right, I believe I have a game started. We can see it's engaged. Oh, cool. So next. Cool. See the steppers up here still need to be serviced. See how slow that one was returning? That is wrong. So that's the last thing I got to do on this thing, other than play test and make sure it works. Test my lights in the front. But I'm going to clean this up with Scotch-Brite and 600 grit steel sandpaper. This is going to come off. The clock spring is going to come off. I know Clay at pinrepair.com had some really good videos I learned how to work on steppers. So I would say buy 1 or 2 of those. They're worth the money. And I actually use a Teflon grease on here. Jeremy does something different. So we both do things differently. It's still live. So that's the last thing. I'm going to take these shafts off, clean them really good, put the clock springs back on, and everything's going to run perfect here. I'm a little tethered, so I'm going to try to sneak around the front side of the game. There's something I want to point out with the lights. Okay. So we can see the front of the game. And here is my box of lights. I buy them by the 100 box from Pinball Life. Now you see I used almost 70 bulbs, and there's 4 plus 1. I only reused 1. Somebody had a slightly dimmer bulb in the quarter window, and I figured it was newer. I cleaned it up, put it back in, because I don't mind a little bit dimmer here, just 'cause less heat behind that plastic. So if you have 70 bulbs, you're going to be short, but you'll be fine if you get the correct bulbs. These are 455 flashers. The way I know is when Bally has a regular straight hole, it's going to take a normal ball, but when you have this more dish cutout, same for pinball too, that means like for those EMs that it requires a 455 flasher. You can get LED versions of these. Uh-oh, these are not cheap bulbs either. You can get LED versions of those, and you can actually get them in slow and fast flash, so they're not flashing all at the same time because they power up at the same time. You can see some of the lights are working. I don't know what they all do. I know this is the ready to pitch light on this side. So yeah, you can see definitely some lights aren't working. Is that a socket or is that stepper? So always start with the stepper. Don't start playing around with sockets right here. So hopefully next time I give a video, I have this thing all wrapped up, playing, and I can show you some gameplay. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for the next one.